Welcome back to the Real ResQ podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. Today, buckle up for an episode that has equal parts of grit, heart, and mountainside rescue. Picture this: early morning on Mount Kilburn in New Hampshire. A young hiker's routine adventure takes a sudden, catastrophic turn. A 30-foot plunge leaves him stranded, injured, and desperate for help. What unfolds next? Nothing short of extraordinary. A full-scale rescue mobilized by New Hampshire Fish and Game's elite, local responders, volunteer rock climbers, and the pulse of the National Guard 860 helicopter overhead. And that's just one gripping story that we're going to unravel today. We're thrilled to partner with Vertical Magazine's Vertical Helicast, where frontline stories meet innovation. A huge thanks to our sponsors, Axnest. Check them out at axnest.com. Onboard Systems, Hoist and Winch. You can check them out at hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com. Switlick Survival Products. Check them out at switlick.com. Ready Bar. Get your bar at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ for 10% off. And as always, the Real ResQ Store. If you want to help support the podcast, definitely check out therealresqstore.com. All right, before we dive into the action, let's meet our guest. First up, Bill Boudreau. He is married with 2 kids and has a red dog named Blue. Hilarious. Once, he was working as a lobster man in New England, which was right after college. He currently helps coach for Little League Baseball and Pee Wee Hockey. Then, we've got Kevin Bronson. He is also a family man, married with 2 boys, and the proud steward of a bustling mini farm. He literally has sheep, goats, chickens, you name it, he's got it. And if that wasn't enough, yeah, he likes running for fun. That's awesome. You know what? I'm with you. Together, these are a couple of the guys behind just a few of the New Hampshire search and rescue missions. So let's dive into the real rescue world of the New Hampshire Fish and Game. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. I am pumped right now because I am in person with 2 guys up in New Hampshire, like a stone throw from where I grew up. It's the New Hampshire Fish and Game. We got Bill Boudreau and Kevin Bronson. What's up, gentlemen?
How's it going?
Dude, I'm fantastic.
To be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here with me. I'm beyond excited to have you here and to hear some of the stories about not only what you guys do but the whole fish and game, because the fish and game in New Hampshire respond to all the search and rescue calls throughout New Hampshire.
We do, yeah. It's kind of a unique setup in New England, but the fish and game department is responsible for, among other things, search and rescue.
That is so cool. Yeah. Right on. Well, before we get to, actually, you know what? I want to touch on one more thing, because a little shout out to like my father-in-law. His best friend actually connected me with a story that came out here, and just kind of in our conversation, it wasn't you guys, but there was an H60 from the National Guard that showed up. So your department showed up on scene, stabilized the patient. Next thing you know, there's a Black Hawk overhead, hoisting some medic down, packaging the patient, and roll out, and then left you guys on the ground.
Yep.
That sounds like standard ops.
Yeah. Situation normal.
Yeah.
Hiking like 10 miles, package, and have to hike out 10 more miles. You're like, oh, man, you could have given me a ride, bro.
They do give a lot of rides.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay, good.
That one was a short walk.
That was a short walk, but it was a really bad spot to get to, and it would have been a nightmare to carry the kid down.
So you guys were on that one?
We were on that one.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, we're talking about that one. We're going to come back to it. Okay.
Yeah.
This is great. So this is how all this kind of came to be. And the fact that I'm actually home right now, and I say home as in like Massachusetts for the summer, and I got I get a chance to set up with you guys in person. So I'm pumped. But Bill, if you don't mind, a little background about you and what brought you into New Hampshire Fish and Game.
Sure. So I grew up in Belchertown, Mass, which isn't far from here. Grew up hunting and fishing. Kind of learned what down there they call them environmental police. That's our counterpart down there. Thought that would be a cool job to get into. But I ended up going to college for business management, believe it or not, and realized kind of halfway through that I didn't want to do that and be stuck in an office. So
is that one of those things like, oh, this is boring?
Oh yeah, I didn't want to be. I loved hunting and fishing, being outside, so I didn't want to be in the office all day. So I started commercial fishing in the summers on down at Cape Cod, Mass, on my summers off.
For wicked tuna.
No, lobster fishing.
Oh,
mostly.
lobster.
Yeah,
Bunch of lobsters out there. Okay.
So I was mostly, I did that. And then when I graduated, I did that full time. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to go for this game warden thing. Started applying all over the place, went back to college, took some classes, got a job with the National Park Service up in Bar Harbor. It was a seasonal job, but I really liked it. And actually, up there in Bar Harbor, the Park Service does the search and rescue within the park. In the rest of Maine, it's done by the Maine game wardens, like we do in New Hampshire.
Right
But in Bar Harbor, the Park Service did the search and rescue. So that was my first taste of getting into search and rescue. I guess I didn't even realize the game wardens did search and rescue. I thought they were just doing hunting and fishing type stuff. And I thought that was pretty neat. I liked that. It was another aspect of the job that I liked. So I got into that. I applied here. They had an opening on the coast. I had that commercial fishing experience and got lucky. And that was almost 21 years ago. So,
Jeez, oh man.
Yeah.
So how much longer you got? I mean, 21 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, my goal is to do 30. But
holy smoke.
If I don't go crazy first or my wife doesn't try and divorce me, I guess.
Go ahead, tell her you love her. Love you, honey.
Yeah.
I say it all the time.
Yeah. Now, the wives in this job definitely put up with a lot. We're gone a lot. We're called out a lot. So, she's been really good about that and has sacrificed her own career so that I could do mine. So,
wow, good woman.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, I've got one of those. Yeah. Good stuff.
It's good to have. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I'm going to throw this out too. Is like your accent is really not there. I'm at Bar Harbor. That was really good.
Really hard R.
Yeah. I mean, Bar Harbor. Yo, we got to go up to Bar Harbor. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I grew up in Western Mass, so I don't have the Boston accent.
Okay. Yep. I will say I've lost a lot of mine just through like military and being all over the world, and it just kind of goes away. But I'll tell you, when I come back here, things like slip out. You're like, got it. Oh, thanks, man.
Hey, no problem.
Kev, what about you?
So yeah, I grew up just outside the Adirondack Park in New York. It was actually like the Tug Hill Plateau region. So like snowmobiling was really big, hunting was really big, fishing was really big, and I didn't do snowmobiling growing up, but I hunted and fished a ton, and really liked hiking because I was right outside the Adirondacks. So like my high school buddy and I would go out and just hike all over the place over there. So it was a place where I learned the skills and fell in love with doing the things that we do, and it was kind of like all natural. And I graduated from South Louis High School and then went to SUNY Geneseo out near Rochester, New York. And I actually started with an accounting degree. And
that sounds boring as well.
Yeah.
God, no wonder you guys did.
Yeah, this is much better.
Yeah, no.
And I have a lot of accountant friends, so I shouldn't like slam on it too much. But.
Yeah, no, and mine wasn't a choice that I made. I was so bad at it that I like had to pull an audible. And but growing up, my dad had a really good friend out in New York that was a forest ranger, and also had a really good friend that was a state trooper. And out there in New York State DEC conservation officers, environmental police, they call them out there. They're focused on like the hunting, fishing, and then forest rangers, their forestry department does the search and rescue. So all the Adirondack rescues, that was forest rangers. So my dad's friend was logged on the side, so I would work hitches and stuff in the summer and on our own little log jobs that we would be doing, and talk to him about like what he was doing on his day-to-day job with the search and rescue stuff. So that was really interesting to me. And then just being engrossed in the hunting, more hunting than fishing. I was really big into hunting growing up. Everything that I could possibly hunt, I was hunting. And with that all combined, I started to look into like conservation law and New Hampshire, because every state does it differently. And New Hampshire was really fit what I wanted to do in a career because of the search and rescue, the conservation law, and that was all like in one package. Like I didn't have to, like if I went to New York, if I was New York State Environmental Police, I'd just be doing the hunting, fishing, no search and rescue. I shouldn't say no search and rescue. That wouldn't be my focus.
Right.
And then if I did forest ranger out there, it would just be search and rescue and the forestry law, but not the hunting, fishing that I'm really passionate about. So again, I was lucky that I started applying when I was still in college here and got a job offer the end of the summer. So I graduated in May, got an offer in August, and have been here ever since. So I've considered myself really lucky to have landed this job pretty much right after college. And yeah, that's kind of like how I ended up here.
Right
Yep.
on.
Yep.
Oh, that's very cool. It's interesting to me. Again, this is a really a new world for me, just kind of learning a lot of this because I didn't know all that stuff in New York, and I didn't even know you guys did search and rescue until the email. So I actually thought it was more like law enforcement and whatnot. And
So in most of the country, I think it's typically the sheriff's departments will kind of lead the search and rescue for inland stuff. Obviously, the Coast Guard's doing the coast. Inland is usually in most states I've found or believe is the sheriff's departments. In New England, it's kind of a mix between the state police and fish and game departments. So like in New England, the main game wardens are responsible for all inland search and rescue. In New Hampshire, we're responsible for all inland search and rescue. And then Vermont, Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island are all their state police are responsible for it.
okay,
But if you get outside of New England, it typically falls to sheriff's departments
right on.
and sometimes state police. But
So you guys have like a unique stronghold of this side of it.
yeah, and I think it makes sense. I mean, our officers, their job is to be out in the woods, out in the backcountry, out know every trail, every snowmobile trail. Our officers get issued, as soon as they start, they have a 4-wheel drive truck, they have an ATV, they have a snowmobile,
my God.
they have a boat. So we have all the equipment that you need to do search and rescue. So, a trooper's on the highway, his job is to know the highway and know the interstate. And then they may get called to search and rescues in other states, and they don't know the trails and the mountains and the streams and the brooks and the rivers. And that's what we do. So to me, it makes the most sense to have the game wardens doing it. We're out there, and we have all the equipment to go and do it.
Nice. That's very cool. Are you guys medically trained at all?
So all of us are first responders.
Okay.
We actually get a wilderness first responder.
Oh, very nice.
certification, through Solo up in Conway, New Hampshire.
Wow! Shout out to them. Well done.
And then we have
a couple EMTs.
a couple EMTs and a paramedic.
Cool.
Those are more up in the White Mountains, up in the around here. There is some woods that if something happens, it'll take a while to get fire department and get medical personnel to them, but it's doable. Up there they could have an emergency that's 6-7 miles out, and now to have EMTs and paramedics on our team that can hike in there and get to them, that's a big bonus to have. But every one of us at a minimum is a wilderness first responder.
Cool.
Yep.
Man, very cool. All right, Kevin, I'm going to come to you.
Yeah.
Do you remember your very first rescue?
I don't know if this was actually my first rescue.
That's okay.
But
We'll go. The first one you can remember, the one that stands out. I like it.
Because when you ask that question, we're literally, we got to be hundreds deep in my career. And I'm probably half of a career's worth of lieutenants. But yeah, the first one I remember was actually I was in training. So when we start, we do a year-long training, and we rotate through the state. So by the time you're done a year, you have like a pretty intimate knowledge of the state. So it was actually really great for a kid like me coming from New York that knew New Hampshire, but not intimately. And but yeah, I was actually here assigned to the Keene office, and we had rescue on Monadnock. And
I just hiked that the other day, by the way.
yeah, and Monadnock is one of those. We get a ton of calls on it because it's readily available to a lot of people. It doesn't take like a long time to get up and get down, but it's actually pretty challenging. Can be pretty challenging.
And actually, real quick side note on that, I just learned this the other day. That is the second most climbed mountain in the world.
In the world, yeah.
Right behind the one in Japan.
Yes.
Mount Fuji, right?
Yeah, Fuji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuji, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets a
Crazy.
ton of traffic.
I did not know that. Friggin' climbed it all my childhood and had no idea. Oh, look at me. I'm on the second greatest mountain in the world.
Yeah, no, it gets a ton of traffic. But the whole story behind that specific one was that it was you were on this too.
Oh, nice. The fact you don't remember is amazing.
No, you'll remember it. I gotta believe you're gonna remember it. It was like either April or May, and it was one of those deals where it was just like an insanely unseasonable cold. It was freezing rain up there. It was super cold, and the lady had broke her ankle near the summit. So we actually had to summit the mountain, come back down, and then re-summit it to get her out.
Was it Memorial Day and it was snowing like crazy?
Yes. Yes. It was something like that. I remember it being a holiday and it being really bad. I don't know if it was Memorial Day, but it was like very late in the year when we should not be having temperatures and conditions like it was. And I want to say she like slipped on ice or something like that. Freezing rain up there. It was just very out of the ordinary. And that's probably why I remember it. And I had a FTO. And
field training officer.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, field training
make
officer.
Sure I got my acronyms.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure.
Yeah. So in our year, you're with this field training officer, and they kind of, at this point, I'm pretty sure I was still in like the babysitting stage where I didn't really know what I was doing, and being the unseasonably cold that it was, I had stuff, but I had just enough for me. And this girl's hands were like getting all purpley, like she was really cold. And so when I got there, I asked her if she had any gloves, and she said no. So I put my gloves on her, but I didn't have a second pair of gloves. Again, I'm like in my infancy of search and rescue. And when I was a kid, I just took care of myself. I didn't have to think about taking care of another patient or the people in my team. And that was like very, just stood out to me still to this day that like, I put those gloves on her. I didn't have any. Then we get down, my hands, like I didn't have frostbite, but I was uncomfortable. It was not, my hands did not feel good. And my field training officer was like, did you learn anything today? And I'm like, yep, I did. But yeah, that's just a memorable one. And being very early in my career.
Yeah. Nice.
And
well done.
And you were asking about training, like the search and rescue training. So when an officer gets hired, he does a whole year essentially of field training with an officer. So he'll work with an officer in the southwest corner of New Hampshire for a month. Then he'll go to the seacoast and work there for a month. So and then they go to the police academy for 4 months. In New Hampshire, everybody goes to the same police academy, whether it's sheriffs, troopers, locals, fish and game. We all go to the same police academy. It's about 4 months now. So outside of that, the remaining 8 months, you're bouncing around with a field training officer. And your FTOs are training you in map and compass. You're learning about line searching. You're doing all that stuff during your year. You're making mistakes, and you're getting graded every single day. You're getting graded on your search and rescue skills is one of the categories you're getting graded on every day. So it is a long year, but you learn a lot in that year, and that's probably where most of your training comes for search and rescue is in that first year with different training officers. And the nice thing about it is you go with one training officer, you learn from him, then you go to the next one, and you can, with all these different field training officers, you can pick and choose and find the things that work for you, that you like, and how they do things. And so it's kind of a unique thing. We have the longest field training of any law enforcement in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, most are about 3 months or so,
Right.
and we do the 8 months and plus the academy. So.
Dang, it's almost a year long.
It's a year long, yep.
Yeah.
And then,
Wow.
And then once you finish that whole year, it's different every time, but essentially they'll open up a patrol area. So each officer is responsible for covering a patrol area. That can be anywhere from 5 to a dozen towns, and that's going to be his main focus. He's going to live in that patrol. He's going to learn all those trails, all those mountains, all the rivers and streams in that area. And obviously, we're state law enforcement, so we go anywhere. You know, if somebody's your neighboring officer's off, you might get called to go there. But that's so every fish and game officer in New Hampshire does search and rescue, and then we have additional teams that are specialized and get more training and do other things like our advanced search and rescue team. They get which Kevin was a part of for a while.
Nice.
They do the above tree line stuff, the winter type stuff. So they're issued all kinds of winter gear, crampons, ice axes, all that stuff that the normal conservation officer isn't issued. The normal conservation officer gets, we get all kinds of gear. The department's very good about search and rescue gear. We get, clothing and boots and backpacks and headlamps and all the stuff you need. So it's
Man, I missed an opportunity here in my backyard. Doggone it.
Yeah, it's a job that a lot of people don't know about. It. We talked earlier. When I went to take my hunter ed class when I was 16. Back then, the Mass Environmental Police Officer would teach that whole hunter ed class, and just seeing that guy in his state truck and uniform, I'm like, man, that looks like a cool job. And then, talking to him, how he has boats and four-wheelers, I'm like, that is a pretty good job. They give you all the toys.
Yeah. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single-point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
As far as the training goes, that's kind of how it goes through that process. It's a long process to get hired. I mean, there's a background, there's a physical agility that includes swim tests and runs and all that, and then you make it through that hiring process. Then you still have that whole year to go through you have to make it through the police academy, then get through the FTO period, where obviously if you're getting dinged on things you're not doing right and you don't correct that, that's a problem. But the goal is that when they come out after that year, here you go, here's your patrol area, that's your baby, that's yours, go have fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, so Bill, what was your very first rescue? Do you remember it?
Again, I can't remember the very first. When you were asking me that, I thought about one of the first ones. So I got assigned to the coast, and the coast doesn't do a whole lot of search and rescue. We work with the Coast Guard and help them out a little bit.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a more urban area, so there's not as much search and rescue.
Yeah, real quick, just the New Hampshire coast doesn't have, it's not like a big chunk of the states on the coast, because you have Massachusetts, and then you have, you hit New Hampshire, and then real quick you hit Maine.
Yeah, very small coastline.
Yeah.
I think it's 13 miles they call it. There might be, I've heard 18 if you count all the nooks and
Sure,
crannies.
why not? I think there's one Coast Guard boat station that's kind of in the middle of it, right?
There is, yep. It's
And then the Coast
Newcastle.
Guard Cape Cod responds with the helicopter, and if we need to go up.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah. So, and we keep our boats at the Newcastle Coast Guard station down there.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so they're very, very accommodating to us.
So you tag their stuff, they tag yours.
Yeah, yeah.
There's stickers all over each
Yeah.
other's boats. You're like, oh man,
Yeah.
they got us again.
Yeah, so we work with those guys. We used to seize fish, illegal stripers offshore, and we'd photograph them and process them for court, and then we'd give them to the Coast Guard guys so they would have some fresh striper to eat in the
man.
mess hall. That was one thing I used to like doing that because they were always so good to us,
That's
letting
cool.
us keep boats and stuff there. But the first one I remember, and I probably again remember it because it was a bigger one, and also this recent flooding in Texas kind of reminded me of it. It wasn't obviously as a grand a scale as Texas, but it was very similar. So when I first got assigned to the coast, I think I was only there assigned maybe 2 months. And I was living in a fish and game house. We own a couple properties, and sometimes the new officers or trainees get to stay in those houses. So I was staying in this house and with no TV. And there was some major flooding that actually happened in this district where I am now, up in Alstead, Walpole, major rainstorm. And there was a huge wall of water. Essentially what happened was a culvert got plugged up with all this rain. I think it was like 8 or 9 inches of rain in a few hours. it plugged up this culvert, and then it let go, and a wall of water like 30 feet high just went racing down the Cold River
Holy
into the
smoke.
Connecticut River. And there was a number of houses and people that had not evacuated that were missing. There was roads everywhere that were washed out, so nobody knew and phones were out. It was before everybody kind of had cell phones, I guess, and even if there was, the cell phone service up there was terrible. It still is. So I had no idea that was happening. I got a call, hey, you need to bring your four-wheeler and your boat and get to Concord. And every Fish and Game officer is mustering in Concord with their boats and their four-wheelers because these towns have been washed away. I'm like, holy moly. So we get up to Concord and everybody's there and I'm new. And then we drove from Concord all the way down here. It was like an hour and a half. And we kept getting to, and I just remember seeing this convoy of Fish and Game officers with their boats and four-wheelers. And I just thought, man, this is a pretty impressive sight. All these guys headed to this rescue. And I remember we got stopped multiple times because roads were out. It took us forever just to get to where we were going in Alstead. And we got there, and Alstead's a small town, and it was, kind of an S show. Nobody really knew what was happening. And so we got in there and quickly got to work. And I remember just my job, I was the new guy. I just was the grunt worker. We started searching shoreline, and I was looking at tires and debris that were, 30 feet up in trees.
Wow.
It was crazy. And then I remember one of my FTOs that was over here, he lived close by that area. He knew the area the best. So he got in a state police helicopter and he was flying around and he spotted a body and we had to go and hike out to the body, carry it across a cornfield. And so that was like my first big, and we were here for, I think, a week. I was here for 4 days. And the Red Cross was here. I didn't have it. And I learned a lesson, the search and rescue lesson for that one, because I didn't have any clean clothes in my truck. I just had my search and rescue gear. So I ended up getting stuck here. I slept in this office we're in on cots. There was probably 15 of us in here.
Oh,
sleeping
that's
on
cozy.
cots. Yeah, it was cozy. And so luckily the Red Cross came. They were giving us all socks and underwear and stuff so we could go back up there. But now I have extra socks, underwear, toiletries in my truck at all times. Learning that the hard way. But that was the one that came to mind when you asked about my first one. I don't know if it was my first one, but it was my first big one, where it was multiple days. Everybody was out there, all different agencies, every conservation officer we had available, just because it was a major disaster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it was a fun one. I remember that one because my FTO that I really liked and looked up to, Claude Dumont, he just knew every nook and cranny of that. So he was in the command post, saying this road goes there and these people live there, and he knew everybody in the town and knew where they lived, how to get to them, the trails to take a four-wheeler around because that road is washed out. So it was just impressive to see the knowledge that he had of his area that he lived in and worked in for 30 years. And when we came in, we got to work and made it happen pretty quick, which was pretty neat. And it was big. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, when you're seeing tires and stuff 30 feet in the air and trees,
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Yeah. Another funny one I remember was I think I was with Eric Hannett, and a volleyball went floating by in the raging river, and somebody yelled out Wilson. I don't know why I remember that. I can't remember half these search and rescues that we were going to talk about today, but I remember a volleyball floating by and someone yelling out Wilson.
As long as nobody jumped in after it, then we're probably good.
So you got to kind of joke when you're dealing with, stuff like that, life and death stuff. That's how you kind of deal with it, I guess.
So it's funny. We actually talk about that a lot on this podcast, and the majority of us that do this job, we have very dark humor.
Yeah, right.
It's not that we're insensitive or we don't care. It's just you got to deal with it some way. So we have stupid dark humor.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for us, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's cool. Question about this is how many rescues, because you guys said there's a lot, you guys have them all the time. Do you know how many rescues about average you get either per year, and is it the whole state is included, or is it just areas?
So I think it's 160 to 180 in the entire state. After I talked to you, I went and looked at our district, which is about 57 towns in the southwest corner of New Hampshire. And I would say we do an average of about 30 here. And then the rest of the state is 160 to 180 every single year. Yep. And that's anything from, the kid that ran out back that we find in an hour to a multi-day search that, takes a week or more to go, which we just recently had one. So those are drownings. Those are everything in between there.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a recovery.
Yep. A lot of times it's recovery. It's, so if we're doing 30 in a year, I mean, that's more than 2 a month we're doing. So as conservation officers, we're responsible for all the hunting and fishing regulations in the state, enforcing the laws for hunting and fishing. We're also responsible for off-highway recreational vehicles, which are dirt bikes, ATVs, snowmobiles. So we enforce all the laws related to that. And then third, we are responsible for search and rescue. And then on top of that, we're fully certified to enforce any state law, whether you're driving down the road or wherever, anywhere in the state. So, but
You're
those
like
are
the Swiss Army knife of law. That's
I
awesome.
always say that.
that is what people say. Yeah. So those are our 3 main focuses.
Okay.
But that's what I like about the job is you never know what the heck you're going to be doing from day to day.
Oh, it's my favorite part about this job.
You could be going to a missing person. You could be going to an ATV crash. We had a hunter-related shooting yesterday. A 10-year-old kid got shot in the leg with a .22. So,
Oh my gosh!
And it's not even hunting season, so you're not expecting that for sure. And every day is different, which is what I like about it.
Did you have to respond to that?
Yeah, that's
what happened. Can we talk about it?
Not a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's July and we're going to a hunting-related shooting, which is not something that we typically do. There's not many hunting-related shootings, period, but especially not in July when there's no hunting season going on.
Yes, no hunting season going on.
Yeah,
Let's emphasize that part of it.
exactly. That's a part of the story for sure.
Wow.
So we went and investigated it yesterday, but that was half our day yesterday was investigating that and talking to witnesses and following up with that. And so, like I said, you go to that, you think you're going to go sit in the bushes and watch fish and make sure somebody doesn't take an over limit of fish, and then you get called to a domestic because there's no police in the town that you're in, or the troopers are too far away, or whatever the case may be. So it's always something different. It's definitely, I would say, the most diverse job in law enforcement, which is what I really like about it.
Yeah. That actually sounded kind of funny. You're counting fish, and then you got to go to a domestic. I'm going to throw that out there the way it sounded.
I've shown up to domestics wearing rubber boots, and people are looking at you like, "Who the heck is this guy?" And so,
I actually kind of laughed because when I walked in here, you were like, "Does it smell in here?" And I'm like, "No, why?" Well, we had a bobcat that got thrown in the freezer last night. I was like, "What the heck am I walking into?" That is
Again,
awesome.
situation normal.
That's nothing unusual here.
Wow. You actually just mentioned that there's a little rescue that's been like a search that's been going on for quite some time, like right now. Can we talk about that one at all?
Yeah. So back on June 24th, we got a call for a elderly gentleman with dementia who had wandered off from his house. We responded there that day. It was back when we were getting, when the temperature was touching 100 degrees for several days. And we called it, we didn't find him right off the bat, which is typically what happens. And it got bumped up into a full-blown, multi-day search with conservation officers, troopers. We called in a helicopter from Mass because the New Hampshire State Police helicopter was down. We had every volunteer team that we use in New Hampshire. We're very lucky. We call them professional volunteer groups.
Yeah.
So we typically don't take anybody just off the street unless we have to or need to. But we have groups of volunteers that train. They have to pass physical agility tests, and these are strictly volunteers, and they show up to these 160, 180 calls that we're talking about. They show up to a large portion of those, whether it's middle of the night, weekends, whatever, where we're getting paid. These people are there volunteering.
Yeah.
So we had multiple dog teams out there. We had all of our fish and game canines out there. We searched for multiple days, and unfortunately, we haven't had a single clue or anything about where he is. So my fear is that he walked outside of the perimeter that we set up, which we essentially searched out to 2 miles, which which is pretty far for based on his physical description we got from the family and how far they think he would go. And we've just, which is eating up us. It's eating up the volunteers. It's not very often that we don't find somebody.
Yeah.
So this one is kind of tough because we'd like to give the family some closure.
Right.
And give them answers because we really don't know where the heck he went.
Wow, man.
Yeah. And that's just the next town over from here last week. I mean, we've still been tracking down some leads that come up. The volunteer canine teams were just out there yesterday or the day before. So we're still actively looking, but it's been, in the first few days we had multiple agencies. We had a big command post set up and, it was kind of all hands on deck. And then unfortunately, as you run out of places that make any sense, you start to have to wind it back. We can't search forever. We don't have endless resources, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And at some point, you have to start scaling it back. And we just haven't gotten a clue. We haven't gotten a sneaker or a shirt or a sighting or a surveillance camera. We haven't had anything, which has been pretty frustrating.
Yeah. So I can relate to that because I remember a lot of that in the Coast Guard, where we'd do a hardcore 3 to 4 day search, and then after that it was like, well, all right, probability of are they still alive, and then how far they have drifted.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many factors that go into it, so I totally understand that. And at the same time, you do want to give that closure to the family, so you're doing everything you can to get to that point. But
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody wants to give up, but it gets to the point where we're searching areas that it's almost impossible for him to get into.
Yeah.
But we're coloring in that map. We use a mapping program that you can see where everybody's been, and you draw the lines on the map, and you know where
that's
everybody
cool.
can be. Yeah. So I should show you that.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah. And actually you can track people live. So I can see where the searchers are, and we know who's
That's
where
pretty awesome.
and who's doing what. We've been using it for a little over a year now, and it's improved our efficiency, I think, dramatically. And you can assign, hey fireman. A lot of times, obviously, when this type of thing happens, everybody shows up. The fire departments, the police departments, and they don't necessarily do search and rescue all the time. We get issued GPSs. They may not get issued GPSs. But now with this new program, everybody with a smartphone, we can create a QR code. They scan that QR code. They get a free kind of trial on this program, and now they can go out on their UTV and check class 6 roads or dirt roads, and we see everywhere they've been. Where in the past they would just tell us, I checked this road and that road and this road, and I may be in a town that I don't know very well, and I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Now I know exactly where he's been, what hasn't been done, what hasn't been covered. So it's been really good. But if you look at this map, I mean, we triple searched areas that made the most sense and have just come up empty every time.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I feel bad. The family wants answers, and unfortunately on this one we haven't been able to give them any yet.
But you haven't stopped yet.
We haven't
which is
stopped.
Amazing.
There's still volunteer canine teams. They do not want to give up. They're going to be all their search trainings that they do. They're going to do them up there. If we get any calls, we've had some random calls of sightings of him in towns that we've called the police departments, and they check it out, and it's not him.
Huh.
We've gone and checked other calls that other information we've gotten, we've followed up on, and just nothing.
Wow. It's amazing to me what we do as a search and rescue community and the effort that we put forward to try to help those in need and to give that either a closure or get the rescue. So well done.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And it's just hard because it does occasionally happen where we don't find a person for sometimes ever or years it can be, but that typically doesn't happen. I mean, that's the goal is to find everybody.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is this town, the town that this happened in, we've had a couple of these. We had another gentleman, Alzheimer's, back 7 or 8 years ago. He wandered off again. It was a week-long search, couldn't find him. And then a hunter found his remains years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is about the town of Chesterfield.
Are we throwing them right under the bus?
Yeah, I think so. Just kind of a rural town, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. And then we had one a couple years before that where we did find the gentleman. Unfortunately, he was lost and he had passed away before we found him. But we found him the second day. Yeah. So I don't know what it is about that town and difficult searches, but. We haven't gotten much sleep back when this first happened. It was, all night long. Kevin and I were out there. We were kind of sleeping in shifts. So, but and again, the volunteers, I got to give credit to them all the time because they're showing up. It's 100 degrees out. They're showing up day after day, for free, volunteering their time, which is pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, see this? It's starting to flow. The rescue stories are starting to come back.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I just can't think of anything right now. And now just let it ride.
Yeah.
I just need a little reminder.
Yeah.
Just point me in the right direction.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Axnis. The Axnis P&G wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft. As a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station, the P&G wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
Hey, I'm going to come back. So one of the stories that I really want to talk about is that the rescue with the National Guard helicopter, and the whole reason I got in touch with you guys.
A teenager is recovering after being rescued from Mount Kilburn in Walpole. Fish and Game says the 18-year-old's dad called 911 after the teen fell 30 feet off a ledge, injuring his leg. Crews used a helicopter and a drone to find the hiker before conservation officers scaled down the cliff. A wilderness response team met up with them and helped carry the victim to a National Guard helicopter, which then took him to a hospital.
Yeah, so that was an individual that had fallen off cliffs in Walpole. And Bill, maybe you should start with.
Yeah, I got the call. I guess I could start.
Get out, Kevin.
Yeah.
Get out. You're taking it back to you.
Mr. Talker over
No,
here.
but he was there for the fun stuff. I was
Yeah.
just the bozo down at the command post. He was in the heat of it.
Oh, good. Okay, so we get the call from Bill, and then
Yeah,
you get.
I'll talk the cool stuff.
The cool-
I'm in.
He usually does the cool stuff. That's the problem with getting promoted. You don't get to do the cool stuff as much anymore. But yeah, so that call came in. It came in as just a kid that was out hiking, and had hurt his leg. He had fallen off some rocks and hurt his leg, and it was his father that was calling it in. So there wasn't, and the father wasn't with the kid. The kid was by himself, hurt himself, called his father. Then the father called 911, which then got transferred to us. So I got the call, and I was at my son's baseball game, and they sent me. So the kid was finally. We told the father, "Hey, tell your kid to call 911 so we can get his GPS coordinates from the cell phone." So he calls 911. The state police dispatch gives me the coordinates. I plug them in while I'm coaching first base. I plug it in, and I'm like, "Oh, this is right off the road. The fire department should be able to handle this. This is no big deal. It looks like there's a dirt road that goes within 100 feet of him." So I was kind of like, it's no big deal. But I knew one of our officers, Zach Abrahamson, was at the office here in Keene, and Walpole, where this happened, was the next town up. So I said, "Hey, Zach, can you just start heading up there and just make sure that it looks like it'll be easy, maybe a little short carry out to this dirt road with the fire department." And so he heads up there, and I'm still at the baseball game, and the father's calling me. And then it kind of clicks with me as I'm looking at the map. I'm like, I know right where this is. This is rock ledges, cliffs. And I start looking at the map, and I'm like, oh boy, I think he may have fallen off one of these cliffs. So as you go up Route 12 in Walpole along the Connecticut River, you can look up, and it's just rock face and ledge, and then it clicked with me. I'm like, you know what? This may not be as easy as I thought it was. So I left the game, started heading. Zach had met up with the fire department.
Real quick, what was the score of the game?
I don't remember. I think
just
I think we won though because
Okay.
we were undefeated.
Oh, good. Yeah.
12-year-old baseball. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Way to go, coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Shout out to that one. Sorry.
So we start heading there, and Zach was on scene with the fire department. I said, "Hey, drive down that dirt road, see if you can make voice contact with him." And he calls me. He's like, "Yeah, we can't get to him. I can't find this kid. It's really steep ledge. There's no way. I'm having trouble getting there." I said, "All right, I'm almost there." I drove up, and I drove right past. There was a kind of a command post set up on the side of Route 12 with multiple fire departments and ambulances and stuff. And I could see. I wanted to go up. It was just about to get dark, so I wanted to go up there and kind of get a lay of the land. So I drove right past the command post, and was now looking at this wall, this steep mountain, Mount Kilburn, and Zach was up on the top, and I could see he was flashing his headlamp at me, or his flashlight at me. And I said, "Oh boy!" And I could tell that this kid, he was still hundreds of feet above where this kid was, and couldn't get down to him. So I went back to the command post, and it was kind of chaotic, and I found out that they had called in DART, which is a medical helicopter.
Okay.
But they don't have any hoist capabilities. They have to be able to land, and they fly with paramedics. And but they had called the helicopter, I think, to help find where the kid was. But we had coordinates, so I knew where he was. We just couldn't get to him. And then there was another volunteer with a drone, so there was a lot going on. So I told the fire chief, I said, "Hey, I got a guy up there. I can reach out to the guard." At this point, we still didn't know the extent of his injuries, but knew it was in a precarious spot. So we're really not. We try not to use the guard unless it's life, limb, or eyesight. That's we're not calling them for a broken ankle or something like that. And the guard guys want to come out all the time. It's their, it's the.
Maybe you should call them for a tweaked ankle, a broken toe, whatever.
They call them their bean counters. And we don't want to abuse this resource that we have.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be, crying wolf every time something happens. So we don't call them very often, especially in this part of the state.
They're going to hear this and be like, "Damn it."
Yeah, I know.
Come on, Bill.
Oh, they're always saying it.
Yeah.
They're definitely used more up in the White Mountains than we use them down here. But so I called them, and just pure luck, they were actually out doing a training mission, and normally it takes them an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to somewhere to have the guys get called in, have them muster up, fuel up, do what they need to do, and then respond, which is only like a 45-minute flight from, probably not even a half an hour from Concord down to this way. But they happen to already be out, so they're like, we can be there in 45 minutes. In the meantime, the DART helicopter was there, and Zach Abrahamson, one of my officers, was still trying to get to him, and the helicopter was flying over the top of him, so he couldn't hear this kid. So I had to call dispatch, and again, a lot of times these things turn into clusters at first. So I was calling the fire department dispatch, saying, "Hey, can you have DART get out of here? Basically, buzz off."
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, no, DART's on the ground." And I said, "No, I'm being told that he's flying over their head," and I could hear the helicopter when I was talking to Zach.
Yeah.
So eventually we got them out of there. Zach, I called. Again, we didn't know the extent of his injuries, so whenever we call the guard, I have to go through my command up in Concord, so my colonel. I think he was a little hesitant because we didn't know what the extent of the injury was, but the guard will fly if searchers or rescuers are going to be put into danger. And I thought this was one that was going to be putting searchers in danger. So again, he finally said, "Yeah, go ahead, call them, call the guard." They're like, "Yeah, we're already out. We can be there in like 45 minutes." And at the same time, it clicked with me that our volunteer group that we use, Upper Valley Wilderness Response Team, which is one of our professional volunteer groups, I knew that these guys rock climb up there for fun and knew that they were familiar with it. And so I called them and I said, "Hey, can you guys get here? We might have a high angle rescue going on here." So they came up, and because they're close by, they were there within 10 minutes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we that's our favorite spot. It looks like he's at such and such." They have all these cliff faces named,
Yeah.
because they rock
every
climb.
route.
Yeah, every route. They knew every place, And they had even cut in a trail that went up to almost where this kid was that no one knew. It was this, you know,
Did they
Unnamed
cut
trail.
the
unnamed.
did they cut it legally?
We're not
or-
we're not gonna
Oh!
we're not gonna go there. But they cut this trail to get in there that no one knew about. And so I said, hey, the guard is on their way, but can you guys get up there in case the guard isn't able to do this? And Kevin showed up about that time that everyone was getting there. And Kevin got up there. In the meantime, Zach had made it down to this kid. He probably did some climbing that he should not have done without ropes. He just, white knuckled it down to this kid.
Dang.
Yeah. And Zach's a new officer, so he's gung ho. So we had to have a little chat about that after. Like, don't kill yourself.
Get some, Zach.
Trying to save people. But he did an awesome job. And what he found out was this kid's femur was broken.
And snap. Okay.
Which bumped it up to life threatening.
Yeah.
Which again, the guard was already coming, but that only, made me feel better that, hey, this is a legit call for them to come to. I'm not wasting their time. So in the meantime, Kevin makes it up there with these Upper Valley guys who know this trail, takes Kevin right up there using this mapping technology again, which I'm a big fan of now, is Kevin laid a track up this trail so that anybody else that showed up, I could say, hey, pull out your app. There's the trail. Just go park up in the railroad yard up here, and there's a trail right there. Follow that track. You're going to get right to him. So Kevin got up to him, which is probably the point where I could pass it off to him.
Oh, perfect. All right, but I'm gonna back up a little bit. So you show up on scene before the trail. You meet
Right.
up with all the climber guys
Yep.
to this unnamed trail
Yeah.
that may or may not have been groomed by them to get to the climbing location. Check.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, no. One of these climbers I've known since I've been working for the department. His name's Andy, and Andy's been climbing up there for probably longer than I've been alive.
Probably.
Like he knows that area really well. So Andy and I and a couple other guys that climb up there hop in my cruiser in their car. We go down to where this trail is.
Which was like another half mile or so up from the command post again, because we didn't know this trail was even there.
Yeah. And so we get down there. I start my track on this mapping program so that anybody comes up, he can see where I'm going with everybody. And ultimately, when we're doing something like this, it might make more sense too if I back up a little bit. So how we do like a command is Bill's lieutenant. And if I'm not there, me as the sergeant, I'm running command.
Okay.
But if we're both there, I'm like a boots on the ground and he's command. So like
Sometimes I go out there and let him do command.
yeah. Yeah,
No, but
this
it
is
makes
true.
sense.
This is
I
true.
get it.
Yeah, so like I'm kind of in that as a sergeant in the fish and game department, I'm like that middle. I'm not always command, but I'm not always boots on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, this specific one, I'm boots on the ground with these guys and so we go in, we hike this trail, and at the beginning it's very distinguishable where the trail is. But then when you get in those cliffs, you don't know, should I go left around this rock slide and then is something going to be on the other side? So these, I think there was 3 guys that were cliff climbers there, are picking this trail. And as a command, like idea on these is we usually have a plan and then we have a backup plan. So the plan is hopefully we can hoist this guy with the helicopter, with the Black Hawk. But if we can't, we're going to start a carry out team, which was going to, if we had to do that, it was going to be bad. Like it was going to be
Take a
a
long
long time,
Yeah.
put the patient at risk. But ultimately, that's why I'm running a track, is that me and these 3 other guys are going there to lay this track to get to and make contact, because at this point, Zach's the only one there. And now there's going to be a carry-out team behind us while I'm assessing our options when I get there.
And one of the first things he told me when he got there was, I don't think this lift is going to work because the canopy is too thick.
Yeah.
So then I'm thinking, oh boy. So now I gotta keep having volunteers and more fish and game people come to hike up that trail because it's going to be a carry out.
Yeah.
But he started looking for holes in the canopy.
I'm, however you wanted to distinguish this, I'm either lucky or unlucky. I've had not a lot. I've had experience enough with the Blackhawk and lifts and stuff during my time with our advanced search and rescue team, and I used to be assigned. So I was the southernmost patrolman in the White Mountain District. So I was up in the Whites a lot before I was here, before I got promoted. So I had a lot of I had a pretty good idea of what the lift can do and what it can't do when we've had to call off a lift and go to a carry out. So I felt pretty comfortable when I got up there. And usually when we're in the Whites, it's the spruce, you're pretty close to above tree line. So none of the trees are very big. They're, the size of your fist maybe, but because of where this was, it was all old growth oaks.
Yeah.
So the branches where he was were bigger than the trees we're trying to penetrate in the Whites.
And he also knew that because we knew it was a broken femur, that it was not going to be possible to do a penetrator. It was going to have to be a litter, and obviously, which is harder to get through that tree canopy for those guys.
Right. So yeah, and at this point it's dark now. Now darkness has overtaken us. We get up to the patient, Zach's there, and it's pretty immediately, like you can see immediately that this kid is in rough shape. His femur is obviously visibly broken. His like knee, or not his knee, his ankle was like in the small of his back, if that kind of makes sense. It was a very bad break, and his leg was swelling. So I usually refer to it as I get to my barking orders stage of when I'm up there.
And I originally with Zach, because he was new, multiple times I said, "Are you sure it's a broken femur? You're not being dramatic here?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it is."
Yeah.
And it was.
It definitely was. Yeah, he was definitely not being dramatic.
Yeah.
it was a bad femur break. And so yeah, I start barking at people, trying to get, this accomplished. But in my mind, my priority at this point is get everybody rolling on the tasks to the team, what we need to get done as a team. But I need to find a place where we can penetrate this tree canopy.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of picture it, we're just on cliff, and then it'll kind of flatten out a little. When I say flatten out, it doesn't flatten out at all, but it's manageable that you can kind of side saddle. Yeah, exactly. But you're kind of doing this, and I'll be darned if I didn't find a hole in the canopy where this rock slide had come and it took out all the trees. So there's this one little hole, but it wasn't big. I talked to one of the other guys that is pretty involved with Upper Valley search and rescue team, Tom Frawley, and I said to him, I want to hear what you think that hole was, how big that hole was before I'm dramatic. And he's like, I don't know, 10 yards, 15 yards. And that's what my guess was. It was, pretty small. And again, with that, with our mapping program that we're using now, I can throw that point onto this mapping program. And then he's down at command, and I'm letting him know over the radio, I think I found a hole. It's a small hole, and this is where it is. So then when he's communicating to the helicopter, can communicate that while I'm on the ground, on scene, again, barking at everybody and doing my own thing, being nice. Yeah, nicely barking.
Yeah. Selecting and directing.
Yeah.
That's what I like to call it.
Yeah. And so I send that point to him. He's communicating with the Blackhawk of kind of what's going on, that we've got point A where the victim is. Point B is where we got an actual hole in the canopy. So, and now we've got this situation where now we're getting a couple more people have come up, but now the situation is we've got to get this kid and shimmy him across the ledges. I don't know. I can't even remember how far it was, 100, 150 yards, maybe something like that, across the ledge to this hole. So my plan was we're going to hang tight, wait for the Blackhawk medic, because usually how we operate, I'm sure nationwide, but with the New Hampshire National Guard, they'll drop a medic. They'll drop him down that hole. and then that medic will come, do a quick little assessment of what we got going on. And then ultimately, I didn't want to have that our victim in that tiny hole because I'm afraid of stuff falling on him.
Yeah.
So we're going to stay that 100 yards away and then shimmy him back over. But the memorable thing about that one for me with the Blackhawk is that so the medic gets dropped down, and so they got that big line coming off the Blackhawk, and it's such a small hole that when they're bringing it back up, it got looped around one of the oak branches. And it seemed like eternity because we're on this ledge and this helicopter's right above us. And if you've ever been underneath a Blackhawk, it's like you're in a hurricane. You're just getting pounded. I don't think I've ever been under a Blackhawk that long, and it's just pounding us. So again, my pucker factor was pretty good at that point because he's just hovering and he's like trying to get it off because he's connected to this oak tree, the helicopter. So again, I think they said they cut the line. I think they ended up cutting that line.
They cut that cable?
Yeah.
Not the cable.
No,
Oh,
it was,
the rope that's okay.
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
So I think they end up cutting that, and then they'll take off and leave us be so we can talk and communicate. Because again, if you've ever had a Blackhawk hanging around, you can't hear, you can't talk, you can't see.
Yeah, totally.
So the pilot takes off, the medic comes over, and the medic's kind of like, yeah, this is a bad one. We got to get him moved. So we load him up into their litter because the Blackhawk helicopter litter's got all the approved lift points. They're used to working that. We're used to working that. So again, that's all into my thought process of we're not going to load him into one of our litters, carry him 100 yards, get him out of another litter with this really serious femur injury. And with injuries like that, you got to be concerned about internal bleeding. And if you keep like jostling him, you can cut,
major arteries
and stuff. So the least amount of movement can oftentimes be the difference between this kid dying or living. So that was another factor that I'm thinking about with this kid. So medic comes, we load him up. We have to belay him down a little bit. So a belay would be like you get a solid point. And then again, these climbers that were there living and breathing that cliff ledge, I asked them to set up a belay line. So when we were ready, the belay was already set. So then we hook him to the belay line, and there's a handful of us at this point, belay him down maybe 50, 60 yards. But again, like 50, 60 yards in the parking lot is not bad, but 50, 60 yards on a ledge, it was some doing. Yeah, it was some doing. So we get him down, and why we belay him down the 50, 60 yards is that's where this like goat path is. And this, when I say goat path, most of the places, you're a litter wide. So what's that, like 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide?
Yeah.
You can't be on both sides of it. So we had like somebody on the head at times and somebody on the feet at times and nobody on the sides because it's ledge to your left. You can't stand there. So we get him there, and then we have to take him back up the cliff to get back into this hole. And it's like thread and needle. The National Guard guys I've always it's amazing to watch them because they penetrate down this hole, hook onto them. And again, when this litter's going up, there's not feet to work with. It's like they got to get them directly into this hole. And then when you're lifting, you got this tag line that you work to keep the litter going wonky on the victim to make it go up straight. And that's like, usually you want to be, quite a ways away to get that right angle, but we're like right underneath working the tag line. Never had to work a tag line that close to somebody, other than one other one we did in the Whites where it was again on cliffs. So you just work with what you got. And again, got him up in the helicopter, gets the medic out, and it was, mission success. Because again, that's one of those ones where I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when he got to the hospital, he was in real rough shape. Like time was a factor for him.
That's what I heard after the fact was that the medic in the helicopter said that his condition started to deteriorate as soon as they got him on the helicopter. He had some compartmentalization of some internal bleeding, and when they were moving him, it started flowing, and so his condition went down pretty quick. So it was good that we got him when we did and got him there. And the guard is like, these guys, we do a lot with them, I think more than any other state. So other states' guard units will come and train with our New Hampshire guys, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the perfect storm in New Hampshire. We have a lot of uses for them, a lot of cliff climbers, you know.
And from what I understand, during the Afghanistan stuff, our pilots in New Hampshire had a lot of experience from the mountains in New Hampshire that relayed over to the mountains of Afghanistan. So they're good guys. They're really good. They want to go all the time, like I said earlier. It's just we don't want to abuse them, but the guys on the helicopters want to go all the time.
Yeah,
man, that's good stuff.
Yeah,
man. All right, so on the back end of that, patient's gone. Congratulations. Now you got to get all the team out and everybody. Adrenaline's pumping through you guys. You're like, holy shit, that just happened. So, first of all, how long did it take you to get all this stuff out? And then, second question, how long did it take you to come down from that high?
It didn't take us a whole heck of a long time to get down at that point because everybody had like that really good track. We were all together. And again, it's all dark, so we just stay together and all come out as a unit at that point. Make sure we have everybody and make everybody safe simultaneously. But yeah, that's when I used to be in the White Mountains. I always would kind of joke, but it was very serious at the same time. But with search and rescues like this, sometimes there's not a ton of adrenaline pumping. Like it's like we got an injured hiker, we got to hike up to this point A, we got to put him in a litter, and we got to carry him for hours. And then there's others where it's like an adrenaline dump. And with the whites, by the time I'd get like within a half hour of home, the adrenaline would be done and I'd be so tired. So I'd like have to pull over and like do jumping jacks because again, it's usually like 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Nobody's out. There's no traffic. But yeah, this one I got all the way home before my adrenaline was dumped. Done
cool.
dumping. Yeah.
Yeah, no, at the time it didn't seem like it was that big a deal. It was just another one. But then it kind of got some traction, and we were contacted by the fire departments who were there because I think they kind of saw that they were out of their element and weren't really sure what to do in that situation. Yeah. So they actually set up some training with us immediately after that. So
that's great.
So we did a full day training with them and the guard. They didn't even know that we had the guard as a resource. So I think they had their eyes open to what, Fish and Game brings to the table with search and rescue stuff and the guard brings. So that was good that came out of that as we got to know these fire departments better and did some training with them. So now everybody's kind of on the same page and knows what each other has for resources and can do. So the after the fact things sometimes are good for that kind of discussion and
heck yeah,
figuring things out.
That's amazing. All right, so think about that for a second, right? Not only the amount of resources that you just threw at this kid that got hurt, right, which is amazing in itself. Now you've got the volunteer climbers that are coming out. They have a setup. We'll talk about the trail here in a second. Is it named yet, or
I don't think it's
okay. We'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
But you have those guys that come out. The fire department comes out. New Hampshire Fish and Game. You guys are coming out, and the National Guard, all working
Everybody
together.
working together, yeah,
to make it happen.
And that was one of the things that was kind of funny was, so I reached out to these volunteer guys that hike up there all the time, and when they showed up, some of these agencies had never seen these guys before, and they're kind of giving them who the hell are these guys and why are they going up there? And just to, the quality of these guys, some of these guys have climbed Mount Everest. They go to the Alps. Like these are legit dudes.
Right.
And they have done this for a lot of them longer than I've been a conservation officer for. So it was funny to have some people eyeballing these guys like, who the heck are these guys? Only for them to go and say, yeah, we have a trail right to it. He's at this cliff face. And, it was good for them to see that these volunteers are not just dubs off the street. These guys are really professional guys.
That is I can totally picture that too. It's actually kind of funny. Like, where did this knucklehead come from? Oh, he's gonna be the one to help us. Oh, okay.
And that's exactly what happened. If we didn't have those guys, we wouldn't have known that trail. These guys wouldn't have been able to get up there. You know, they would have gotten up there eventually probably, but they wouldn't have been able to get up there as easily to move him to that open canopy spot. So that to have those guys right there, we lucked out. You know, everything came together. The guard was training, so they were 45 minutes away. Yeah. These guys lived right there and knew the trails like the back of their hands. So it was a good one. It came together good. And it was, you know, much more serious than we kind of realized at first. And when I was at the baseball game thinking I could do it over the phone.
Yeah.
All right, so were you coaching while you were on scene? Like, okay, yeah, first base, yeah, steal.
Oh yeah, multitasking, yeah.
Hey, you know what, guys? Thank you for sharing that story. That is incredible. Well done. And the amount of resources that you guys use is awesome.
Yeah, there's only 40 conservation officers in the state, so
that's it. Just 40 of you guys.
So there's no way we could do all that search and rescue on our own. It's just impossible. So we rely on volunteers, these professional volunteers, fire departments, police departments. Like New Hampshire's a small state. Everybody's got to work together, but there's no way. So essentially what we are is search managers. We run the search, do the kind of incident command thing. You know, we have officers that are there, but if we're lucky, you might have, you know, on this one, I think we only had 2 or 3 conservation officers there, and I'm one of those that's down at the command post, so I'm not doing anything, or I'm not any help to the guys up there. So without these volunteers, it could not be done.
That's really cool. I just want to touch on a little bit of what you guys are in your capabilities. You mentioned it earlier, but like I see it, you get a little badge. Like you're a dive master. So like how many different types of search and rescue entities do you guys have within the department? We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Switlick. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals, zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlick Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlick.com.
So as I said, we have about 40 officers statewide. We all do search and rescue, but then out of those 40 officers, we have multiple teams that are essentially formed for search and rescue purposes. So we have a dive team. That's a 15-member dive team. We're the only state dive team in New Hampshire. So we're responsible for all drownings that occur in New Hampshire. And then we often get called for evidence searches for police departments, state police, that kind of thing. Then we have a ROV sonar team, which works in conjunction with the dive team, which Kevin is a member of. So that's all, you know, the high-tech technology that we've gotten from Homeland Security grants and stuff. And so they have towfish sonar. We have ROVs that have manipulators on them that can grab onto things and pick people or objects up. We then have the advanced search and rescue team, which I talked about a little bit earlier. That's, I think, another 15 guys. And again, those are guys that get trained in above tree line, wintertime type rescues and have all the gear for those scenarios that the general conservation officer doesn't get. We've got airboats, a couple airboats around the state that are used for search and rescue. Awesome. And again, every officer has four-wheelers, boats, canoes, everything, anything and everything you could think of to be used for search and rescue. We have it. We have the airboat team. Am I missing anything there?
I'm sure. Oh, the canine team.
Oh, canines, yeah. Duh. We've got 5 canine handlers in the state too that train for tracking and area scent searches, and then they also find gunpowder and shell casings for our hunting enforcement work. But yeah, so we have 5 canines that are around the state. We're lucky enough to have 2 in our district here, Tom Houghton and James Benvenuti. But yeah, so we have all those resources and bring all that to, any search and rescue essentially. But so we stay busy. But again, that's what I like about the job is it's always something different, and you get involved with so many weird different things. That's kind of fun.
Yep.
This is super cool. I had no idea that you guys did everything that you do up here. Like, I mean, I know Fish and Game because, you know, we got it down in Massachusetts, and everywhere you go, there's a fishing game. But this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A big reason why I'm here is because of that aspect of all the hats we wear. We got a lot of different hats that we have to be experts in, but that's what I like. I like you know, all the variety.
Yeah, every state, all 50 states have a fish and wildlife agency that has a law enforcement division, but not everybody's duties are a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I just, like Massachusetts, they are get involved on the outskirts of search and rescue. Like they help, but it's the state police's responsibility. Yeah. We're up here in New Hampshire, it's ours. So I like the jurisdiction and the duties that we have. I think are a lot of fun and
cool.
Always something different. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a lot of opportunities too. Like can speak to the ROV, which is the remote operated vehicle sonar stuff. So I'm the assistant team leader, and Joe Canfield is our team leader. So, but him and I were on the team from its inception. So like before, I'm trying to think when we started, 2016, 17, something like that. There was no sonar ROV team because that was all new technology that we didn't have access to. And then we started this team, and I'm lucky enough that Joe runs the team, and he's a wizard when it comes to this stuff. So we've gotten involved in what do we want to be, what do we want to look like, and how do we want this team to run, which is cool because the department gave us all that, you know, gave us the opportunity to do that and how we wanted to operate. And so how do you get good at something? You train, right? So when you train, we would drop mannequins in random spots in water and be like, okay, let's, today's training, we dropped a mannequin, let's run sonar. And so what like sonar would be is, it's how I would describe it, is a lot like when you get an ultrasound, you're looking at images, and a lot of times, at least for me, before sonar, you'd look and they'd be, you know, doing the thing on your belly or whatever. And I don't know what that is. It just looks like blobs and blurs. And that's kind of how sonar is. If you don't know what you're looking at, it's just blobs and blurs on a computer screen. And then it's ultimately the training is how do we get from a boat to setting this up to make this boat a sonar capable boat, and then how do we get those images from sonar and say that's a missing person, but that's just a 55-gallon drum. Like, how do we distinguish those two things? So that's how we started, and then that got boring because we got good at it. So Joe takes it upon himself to start going through cold cases, and that had never been solved in the state of New Hampshire.
This is neat stuff,
yeah.
Wow.
So, and again, it's just fun that how it all started is, so Joe would come and be like, okay, so I've heard rumors of this guy or this girl that never was found. So we'd be like, okay, let's try and get the, you know, cold case file and see if there's any bodies of water. And like when we first started, there would be like certain criteria of like, okay, this person's car was never found. So it's like, okay, either in our mind, it was one of two things: one, an alien abduction, or they're in the water somewhere. So if it's not, so now we're going to search waters and where this could be. So the first cold case we ever solved, his name was Tony, and the whole thing was he left Errol, New Hampshire, which is super remote, and everybody thought he went west. And so there was this big search west of where he was, but then south, he had nobody thought he had any reason to go south, but the south route runs right next to this road, runs right next to this river. The road is right next to it.
Yeah.
Right. So we were searching that. We get done. We did it for, I think, a year of training, looking for him. And it would be once a month. We go up there and search, trying to find his vehicle or him. And that one's funny because that was pretty, again, early in our training, and we had never solved a cold case at that point. and we get done with the day, and there was this image where we were like, what do you think that is? And when you're turning in the boat with sonar, it distorts the image.
Okay.
So like if you're in the middle of turning your boat and then the sonar's turning, it'll like elongate an image.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
what had happened is we were on a turn in the river and it was elongating this image. And what you can do is when you're out there, and again, this is all from us learning from it, you're riding the boat, it's a really sunny day that day. So like you're kind of squinting at the computer screen, but then when you go home, you're in your, at night, you can pull up your computer screen and be able to study it more and have a better visual what you're looking at. And he was sitting there with his kids and they're like, that's they're young kids and at the time. They're like, yeah, that's a dinosaur. That's a blah, blah, blah. And one of his kids is like, that's a monster truck. And Joe's looking at it, he's like, looks like a truck. And so we go back and it was Tony in his car, but his car that he had landed right side up, that one. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to, that was from the 80s, late 80s.
He had been missing for 19 years.
Yeah, 19
Holy
years.
cow.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So then we got the bug, and then Joe really delved into another missing person case, Alberta Lehman, and Alberta Lehman been missing since the 70s.
42 or 3 years.
42 or 3 years. And she lived just down the street from where Tony had been missing from. And so this area would be on the Maine border.
Yeah.
And the Androscoggin River separates Maine and New Hampshire. And she lived on the Androscoggin River on the Maine border. So again, back in the 70s, there was a big search effort to find her. And they focused on the Androscoggin. And looked and looked and looked. And we looked with our sonar for at least one whole summer. I think we spent on the Androscoggin looking for Alberta. And then Joe, being the investigator he is, and again, just really took this thing further than I think anybody thought, really delved into her cold case and realized that she had family in Vermont. And perhaps she had left and actually gone to Vermont. And New Hampshire on that side, and the Vermont border is separated with the Connecticut River, which again is a big river. And so Joe and I are down now. The next summer, we're like, let's just run the Connecticut on the Vermont border, looking for Alberta. Like again, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Now we're a long ways away from where Alberta lived. And again, this is one I'll never forget because one, we're proud of it, and two, it was just like insane how it all happened. We pull over on the side of the Connecticut River. We talk to the local game warden, who now's on our team. And we're talking about, what we're doing, where these turns are in the river, where somebody might have fallen asleep at the wheel and just gone straight in the river. We're talking about it. And so we're stopping for our lunch, and I'm packing up my lunch pail. And at that point, Joe and I are the only ones in the boat. And I turn to Joe and I'm like, what would you think if we were sitting over her eating lunch? And she was right below us, and Joe kind of laughs, and we, pull up on the sonar. We went maybe, what was that, a mile, not even a mile down the river from where we had lunch, where this covered bridge was. And I'm like, Joe, we got a vehicle. And I'm like, because at this point, we've been doing it for so long, and now a vehicle to us is kind of like a sore thumb now on a sonar image.
It's automatic for you guys.
Yeah, and it was and we were on a straight run. We didn't get any distortion, and the vehicle was upside down. So you could see the transmission, you could see the wheels, you could see everything. It was obvious it was a vehicle. And so I'm excited because we definitely have a vehicle. And so then we've got the cold case in the boat with us. And I'm like, so what was the vehicle? And he's telling me what it is. And at this point, smartphones everybody's got a smartphone now at this point. And I'm Googling what that car looked like. And so then we get our remote operated vehicle with a camera on it. We dive down on it, and I'm looking at the grill, and I'm looking at the wheels and all this. And I'm like, Joe, I think we've freaking found Alberta. And it's a match to all the grill, the how this car looked was what I'm looking on Google. So now we're over the moon, excited, but it's upside down.
Cow,
And
what
I knew
the heck?
I
That's
knew they
crazy.
were I knew they were doing this for training. And so now there's quite a bit of competition between the dive team and the sightseeing and sonar team.
Friendly competition.
No,
Game
friendly,
on.
friendly competition. So I knew that they were up there doing that for training and that they were looking for her. And it was probably like 9:30 in the morning or 10. They couldn't have been doing it very long, like he said. And he sends me a text, says, "Got her." I'm like, "What?"
You son of a.
And I'm just like, "No way." And he sends me the picture of the Google image and of the underwater image that they took with the camera. I'm like, that does look pretty good. What was it, a 1972 Pontiac Le Mans?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, those taillights look good, but they couldn't see a license plate. But we were like, ooh, this is looking good.
Yeah. Super excited. So then we circle back around because we're not. So Joe and I aren't divers, so we don't have dive equipment. And Bill's the dive master, so he's in charge of the dive team. And so he rallies his troops for. It was like a week later or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a week later. We had a lieutenant's meeting up north, and so we're like, well, I'll just do it while we're up there. We'll send a couple divers down to check on it. And as the dive master, I don't get to dive much anymore, but I'm like, this one's cool. I'm diving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pushing
buddy.
all the other guys
Yeah,
aside.
I'm like, here, you sit here. I'm doing this one. And we went out and went down. It was me and Eric Fluette. We went down, and almost instantly I saw a license plate that was like, I didn't know I knew it was a license plate, but I couldn't see it. And just as soon as I touched it, it broke off from the car. Like that's how rusted and degraded it was. And I look at it and I knew what the plate was. So I started yelling into the comms, the plate number, and everyone up on the boat is like, "Holy, it's her car." And so then they're like, okay, so now we got this. So we reached out to state police, cold case unit. We were calling the police. We fished around in the car for a little bit trying to find remains, but this car was it had been in there for 42
over
years.
40 years.
yeah.
And it was a rust bucket mess. It was upside down. It was full of mud right to the top. So it was a mess, but we knew it was her car. And now we're like, okay, what are we going to do? So, so we reached out to state police. They wanted us to dig around in there. So another month or so went by. We had a dive training. So the whole team was up there. We essentially, the floorboards of the car were so rotten that we were able to just rip those kind of out of there.
Yeah.
And we were diving in there in the mud. You couldn't see anything. So it was all by feel. And just doing that, we recovered quite a few bones and her clothing and things like that.
Yeah.
And enough to identify her and that it was her. We should go back to, that's kind of the best part about it is before this happens, or was that day? Going to see her daughter.
Yeah, it was that day.
So we the day you found it or the
No,
remains?
it would have been when you found the
remains.
license plate.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, because that's the way I remember it, is that it was the day you found the license plate. We were pretty convinced it was her.
Yeah.
And
yes, it was, because the colonel was there
Right.
for the lieutenant's meeting. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is the coolest part
Yeah.
he can say.
But yeah, no, that's what we're all about in the search and rescue community. Is why we're doing this is, like we were talking about the Chesterfield search, is at this point, obviously, you're just trying to provide a story, like to
Closure,
the family,
for
a
sure.
closure of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happened. And that was why I'm even bringing that one up, is this it's very hard to replicate that that feeling, giving somebody a closure after 40 years of questioning what's the reality of what happened. And because you think, like, were they abducted? Were they, like, what happened to? So then right down the road is where the family member was that we knew lived in Vermont. And we hadn't talked to them yet because we didn't want to give anybody false hope that we're going to find something when we don't. But they had been living there at this house in Dalton, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was in Dalton.
Dalton,
Vermont.
Dalton,
Yeah, it was in Dalton, Vermont. And she had, long story short, she had almost made it to Dalton. This car was right down the road from where she was trying to get to. And I don't know
her
if
daughter's house.
Yeah, and I don't know if she fell asleep at the wheel or what, but it was a very sharp turn. But today there's a guardrail there, but back in the 70s there was no guardrail there. So she had gone in, and to be able to, put that story to rest of what, because that whole story had turned into like local folklore, what happened to Alberta. And then to be like, and they had written books about, what happened to Alberta, and she was a big mystery up there. So to be able to provide closure to the family after 40 whatever years, and so Joe and our colonel drove down to the end of the street and knocked on the door, and that was actually, because again I wasn't there, but according to Joe, they knocked on the door, and at that time, Northwoods Law had been filming, and Joe had been on the show, and I guess they loved the show, and they thought what it was is that one of their family members had somehow met Joe, and they were doing like a knock and talk of like, "Hi, I'm Joe Canfield with Northwoods Law. Nice to meet you," and that's what they thought it was. And Joe's like, we're pretty sure at this point.
And this is to Alberta Lehman, the missing woman's granddaughter that they're talking to.
Oh my gosh!
But
That's crazy.
Alberta's daughter was in the other room, who was in her 80s,
Right.
and who had been wondering where her mother was for 42 years, and she's now in her 80s. And they went in, and she thought they were there, I think, because of the bears or something.
Yeah.
'Cause I thought that she had a bear in the backyard, so they thought the Fish and Game guys were there because there was a bear at her bird feeder or something. And the granddaughter is like, "Mom, they found Grandma. They found Alberta." And she, couldn't believe. I wasn't there either, but I think that was just a pretty cool thing to be able to tell.
I am getting
I
chills
know,
right now,
yeah.
guys. Oh my gosh!
So, and for years they would drive to junkyards in Manchester, New Hampshire to try and look for her car. They'd go up to Canada and look for her up there. So for 42 years, this family was looking for their mother and their relative. And these guys found her vehicle. So then we knew it was her vehicle, but we didn't have her yet. So that's where I was talking about the dive team. And so initially that day when we found the license plate, we poked around quick, didn't find any remains. So we reached out to state police. We went back for a dive training. So we had all the team there, and we just kind of took shifts pawing through the mud that was in the car. And we found quite a few remains, bones, clothing. And they were able to identify her from that, so we knew that it was Alberta. But this detective from state police was very thorough. He wanted more. He wanted to be able to give a cause of death and to say that it wasn't anything suspicious. So he wanted us to get more remains. So he was asking us if we could remove the vehicle from the water. And this vehicle was so it was just a rust bucket mess that I knew if we put lift bags on it or tried to lift it with a boom truck, it would fall apart, and then her remains would be scattered in the river, and then it would be that much harder to find anything. So we ended up talking to he's owns a dive shop in Rye, New Hampshire. He's trained our dive team since the 70s. So he's just a wealth of knowledge. I talked to him, what can we do with this? And he said, well, why don't you use a Venturi pump? I'm like, well, what the hell is a Venturi pump? So, and I can't explain the physics to you, but essentially it's you have this hose and you force high pressure water through the hose partway up, which pushes the water out one end of the hose and creates a vacuum on the other end of the hose.
I know what it is, only I know the air side.
The air side?
Yeah. So they have a Venturi air pump that we use to anyway, it doesn't matter. Keep going.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So he had one because he has everything dive related. He's like, yeah, I've got one. So we worked with the state police major crime cold case detective, and Donnie came up from the coast. He drove all the way up there because we didn't know what we were doing. We'd never done it before. So he had to help us run this thing. We had the fire department there for their hoses and their pumps. The trooper found a guy that had this commercial docking system. It was basically a floating dock boat that we could work on. The troopers reached out to UNH, to their anthropology department, and they had the head anthropologist come up with her students. And so essentially we took this Venturi pump, vacuumed out the inside of this car, which would pumped it up to this floating dock, and they had screens, and everything that we pumped up was sifted through in those screens on the boat. And we ended up finding it was over 80% of her remains, all of her clothes, her her footwear. There was some pennies, jewelry. There was like all kinds of like just minute stuff that we vacuumed up off the ground. And they were actually, the anthropologists were able to determine that her injuries, her broken bones that we recovered, were consistent with a car accident. So they were able to say there was no foul play. It looks like, she never wore a seatbelt. Nobody wore their seatbelts back then. She had broken ribs and I think a broken leg. Don't quote me on that. But they were able to say these are injuries consistent with a car accident and not a homicide or anything suspicious. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
From the whole thing was very cool. The fact that these guys took the time to find it and then to be a part of it as a dive team leader and vacuum out this car. It was just a neat one that I'll remember. For sure. To find a lady that had been missing for 42 years was pretty cool.
Guys, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So yeah, our search and rescue is pretty vast.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think somebody's on a mountain and they're hurt, they need to get off the mountain. But because we wear all these different hats, we do so much search and rescue in basically every facet that you can possibly search or have a rescue operation, which is fun.
Yeah.
Fun from our perspective.
And as you said, you didn't, earlier that most people don't know, a lot of people don't even know what a conservation officer is in New Hampshire, although the Northwoods Law Show certainly made us a little more prevalent out there. But most people don't know what the heck we are. If they do know what we are, they think all we do is hunting and fishing, and they have no idea that we're doing all this other stuff on the side, which is, which has been kind of interesting.
Freaking badass.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'll say it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I like it. I enjoy it a lot. It's just always different. You never know what you're going to be doing, which is what I like about it.
Yeah. It is amazing. You guys, my God. Thank you so much for sharing that story. That is incredible. Well done. I'm finding that. Like, cold case solved. Boom.
Yep.
That's just amazing to me. You guys, we've been on for a little while, and I can't thank you enough for joining me. So I want to just a couple things real quick is if people wanted to learn more about you guys and or if anybody wanted to join your team and or the volunteer team, is there a website? How does this work?
Yeah, so to become a conservation officer, you can find that info on our New Hampshire Fish and Game website. Any of the volunteer teams, if you're interested in volunteering for them, just know that you're all in. If you're in it, if you don't show up to trainings, they boot you. It's not just a willy-nilly thing. These people, when you volunteer to be on these teams, they expect you all in, which is why they're so good. But they each have their own website that has links to how you get on the team, what they expect of you, what the qualifications are to be on the team. So that all those teams, there's a list of those teams on our Fish and Game website, with links to their specific websites.
Sweet.
So
okay.
And then as for a hiker, so you don't need to be search and rescued, we have a hike safe program, and you can find information about that, things to take, things to do, so you don't, end up in a situation where you have to call us to come and get you. So if you're a hiker that's looking for tips on how to avoid trouble, that's a good place.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, the greatest part about this is that, we just scratched the surface of the search and rescue missions that you guys, I'm going to call them missions, but cases that you get called out to every year. And heck, you've been here for 21 years. And how long you been here, Kevin?
12.
12.
Yep.
So between the two of you, you're running missions like left and right and all the time. And I appreciate you just giving a piece of it, but you guys go after lost snowmobilers, hikers, people that get hurt, and now drownings and recoveries. Oh my gosh. So with all of that, my next question is going to be, if you had a piece of advice to pass on from all of your experience and knowledge, what would it be?
I guess I'll throw out to prevent hikers from getting into trouble is just don't know your limits and don't go above and beyond your limits. And as a searcher, don't become part of the problem. Be right. It doesn't do you any good to go out there and get yourself hurt or get yourself into a situation that now we have to come and rescue you. So I guess that would be a piece of advice on the search and rescue side of it, maybe.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Kevin, what do you
Yeah,
got?
that's our big thing too. When we have this big Chesterfield search from a command incident perspective, is we've got a big huge problem. How do we not make this big huge problem a bigger problem? And like that's one of the things like we have to deal with is there's a lot of people in the community that want to help, and we need their help. But ultimately, I think a lot of people think when they come to us that the only help they can provide is boots on the ground and hiking through the woods. But like this Chesterfield search, we needed people just looking, talking. We needed people knowing it was going on, get on their social media, look at their Ring cameras, things like that. So that's one of the things that I feel like in today's world, a lot of people think that's the only way to help. I gotta go hiking. But a lot of times that's not the help we need. And if
Searching
that's
through somebody's Ring camera.
yeah,
Holy cow.
yeah. So that's
I didn't even think of that.
yeah, and that's like huge for us because when we have a big search, we're going. If you can picture like that spider web veining out from a central location, but if we get a sighting to the north a half mile, then we send all our resources north, and we can really focus on our search area. And that is the type of help that is oftentimes super helpful and
Awesome.
pretty great to be able to say you can help, but not necessarily. We don't need you swimming through a swamp necessarily,
Right.
because we have those are the resources that we've worked really hard to get and work well with and have available. Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, just because you're not out in the woods, walking through the thick stuff, there's things that you can do. There's ways you can volunteer to help, and every little bit helps, especially on those big ones that are multi-day.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough. I'm so happy that I get to meet you guys, be here in person to record with you guys. And I look forward to when you're not in uniform and we go get a beer together.
Sounds
All
good.
right?
Yeah, sounds good. Nice to talk to you.
Maybe we'll be on the water together. We'll pull the boat out.
There you go.
Maybe I could jump on, go quadding and boating with you guys. Go check out the sonar.
I think we got a new recruit.
Yeah.
Oh man, I like this idea.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, again, I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank
you.
I think I'm gonna have to come back and record with you guys again and get more stories.
Plenty of stories.
Yeah. There's no shortage.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go!
Now it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real ResQ. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single-point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
And
Switlick. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals, zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlick Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlick.com.
what's one of the funniest things that's ever happened to you that you can think of,
Yes.
training or wise?
Yeah. So I was on the advanced search and rescue team for about 7 years, and that's like high risk, deployments, meaning like really cold temperatures and high elevations. So it's usually when we train is in that weather when it's just abysmal. So we had this training planned, and we were going to be above tree line near Cannon Mountain, which is like in Franconia Notch. And the last thing you're going to do for an advanced search and rescue team training is cancel because of bad weather. And this bad storm was coming through. And it was one of those winters where we were getting a really crummy winter. There wasn't a lot of snow accumulation because we were getting this freezing rain, gross stuff. And so the whole training was we were going to do survival stuff through the night, sleep up above tree line, wake up and hike out the next morning. But all night it got freezing rain. It was just so bad. Such one of the worst weather missions that I've ever been on. It was just for a training. And we use bothy bags a lot in our missions, which is basically, it's kind of like a little tiny parachute, and you make this like little bubble around yourself, and a lot of times we'll put like a hiking stick in the middle to hold it up.
Okay.
But it was, the freezing rain was so much, and that slushy that like I woke up in the middle of the night, and it's like a tarp, and it's just like right up against my face, like trying to breathe. So we couldn't sleep. Nobody slept. But our team leader who runs our program, that's been running it for a long time, his name's Jim Neal, and he's a lieutenant. And we're walking out, and everybody's kind of like at one of those marches where you're just like in and out. You're super exhausted because nobody slept through this horrible weather. And there was this little spruce tree, and it had like a V in the tree, and you could see where there was a shoulder and like a torso perfectly melded into the snow in this spruce tree. And I'm like, the inquisitive mind of the game where I'm like, what is that? And Nealon was right in front of me, and he's like, that's where I slept all night. Because if you laid down, you couldn't lay down and sleep. So he slept standing up. In his head, it was like a perfect outline of his head, his shoulder, his torso, in the crotch of this tree where he had slept all night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That sounds miserable.
Oh, it was miserable. It was horrible. Yeah, but funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you
Not
shared
laughing when you're there.
Right.